U.S. home builder confidence just increased to a 7-month high, and builders, get this, are now 5 times more confident today than they were back in 2008. However, despite these gains overall, builders are pessimistic about building brand new single-family houses, and the majority of them are still offering sales incentives to home buyers in order to drive home sales. Meanwhile, new home sales in September grew from last year, but that is not true for every area. I have a lot to share in today's video. Let's discuss. Let's first talk about builder confidence. This is according to a monthly survey from the National Association of Home Builders. Link below for this. It says builder sentiment improved for the 3rd consecutive month. It did increase to 46 in November. This, by the way, is confidence in building new single-family houses, not apartment buildings. So something to take to be aware of, I should say, is that any reading for their index below 50 means that builders are pessimistic about the housing market. Any reading above that means that they're confident about building houses. So we're at 46. So despite the gains we've been seeing, the 3rd consecutive month in which it has increased, they're still overall pessimistic. So why does this even matter? And this is the reason why I'm sharing this with you guys. When builders are not confident about building houses, this of course means that we're going to see potentially a lack of home building, right? If builders are not confident about what's going to happen, they're not going to build houses. And here's a fantastic snapshot looking at their confidence index, which is what they call their housing market index. Obviously, a high reading means that builders are very confident, and a low reading means just the opposite. So the blue line, this by the way goes all the way back until 1990. The blue line is our index. As you can see, obviously we had a trough during the Great Recession, and it skyrocketed, especially right after COVID hit, but also around 2013 as well. In any case, you can see the blue line has its ebbs and flows, but of course, single-family housing starts also kind of move more or less in line with that. So when we had the peak back in 2005, we saw a high amount of home building, and the housing start is a beginning phase in the construction of building a brand new house. That peaked in 2005. Also, we had the Great Recession, but has been increasing ever since then. And same goes for their index as well. Also, check this out. Here's a 1-year chart looking at their index according to investing.com. This is on their economic calendar. Of course, I'll provide a link below for that. So for November, their index was at 46. This again marks the 3rd consecutive month in which has been increasing. Before that, we saw 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive months in which has decreased. But at 46, again, lower than the threshold at 50% or 50. This is also higher though than last year, much higher. Last year, this time we're at 37. Now take a look at this. Here's a 2-year chart, and let's actually look at a 5-year chart. The peak was really back in November of 2020, when the index was at 90, more than double the index right now at around 46. So obviously back in the late part of 2020 through early 2022, home builders were popping champagne because everyone was buying houses then due to 3% mortgage rates. Then when when mortgage rates increased greatly in 2022, their index fell greatly. And we've been hovering at these low ranges ever since then, really. Now, here's where it gets really crazy. Click on Max. It takes you all the way back until the year of 1985. Let me just zoom in over this past 20 years plus. The trough was back in really November of 2008. Back then, their index was at 9. Now it's at 46. So builder confidence is obviously much higher today than it was back in 2008. Going back to this chart, you can see that home building really cratered back in 2007 through really 2010, a lack of housing starts that occurred right after the Great Recession. Going back to this article from the National Association of Home Builders, it says, while builder confidence is improving, the industry still faces many headwinds, such as the ongoing shortage of labor and buildable lots, along with elevated building material prices. Moreover, while the stock market cheered the election result, Bitcoin's at like 90,000 right now, absolutely crazy. Anyways, the bond market has concerns, as can be seen by the increase in mortgage rates. In addition to this latest survey from the Builders Association noted that 31% of builders cut home prices in November. This share has remained essentially unchanged since July. Also, the share of builders offering some form of a sales incentive is at 60%. This means that 6 out of every 10 home builders is offering some form of a sales incentive to a home buyer, such as a closing cost credit, a lower mortgage rate, free builder upgrades, etc. Here's what we also know as well, because builder confidence has been increasing again for the third consecutive month, but also we saw a big increase in new home sales that occurred in October. In fact, we had 738,000 was the seasonally adjusted and annualized figure, which is a fancy way of saying the current sales pace for September. If you had the current sales pace that month, multiply that by 12, do a seasonal adjustment, you would get to 738,000 over the next 12 months. In any case, that is actually higher than the forecast at 719,000, obviously higher than the 709,000 we saw back in August this year. Also, if we go onto our good Uncle Fred's website, looking at sales at 738,000 this September, that's the highest reading going all the way back until May of 2023. Back then, we had 741,000. Having said that, I mean, like I mentioned, we had a huge increase in sales. It was over 1 million in August of 2020, as well as October 2020. Now, zooming out over the past 10 years at 738,000 right now, looking at September of 2019, we had 712. September 2018, we only had 595,000. Let's look at one more year. September of 2017, which is right there, 637,000. So the sale pace this September, and frankly for the past several months now, is actually higher than pre-COVID levels, despite 7% mortgage rates. But again, builders are offering all these incentives to home buyers in order to drive home sales. Let's have a closer look at this, looking at the actual source of this data, looking at the US Census Bureau, looking at sales and also prices and inventory for September. Their monthly report, by the way, only looks at new single-family houses, so excluding condos and townhomes. And they define a sale as a deposit taken or a sales agreement signed between a builder and home buyer, and that can occur prior to a permit being issued. In other words, a sale can be for a dirt lot in which the home builder is not going to build it for 6 to 12 months. It can be a house under construction, or it can be for a completed house as well. Let's first look at sales, then we'll have a look at inventory and of course prices as well. So again, this September, 738,000, that's the highest levels going all the way back until May 2023, which is nearly a 1.5 year high. That's a gain of 6.3% year over year. However, the area varies greatly, right? They look at the Northeast, the Midwest, the South, and the West. So the big driver of this gain of 6.3% is actually from the South, increasing by nearly 15%. And the reason for this is that much what happens in the South regarding the new home construction industry really affects the national trend. The reason why I mention this, look at this. 477,000 new home sales. That was a pace this September in the South compared to the total 738,000. Therefore, 65% of all home sales in September came from the southern region of the United States. In contrast, look at the lack of sales in the Northeast and the Midwest was only about 100 sales compared to over 700 on a national level. So the main driver of this gain is from the South, increasing by nearly 15%. The Midwest also rose by 15%. The Northeast decreased by 22%, and the West fell by nearly 11% year over year. Let's also have a look at the month supply. This at 7.6 months, quite a bit lower than the 8.4 months we saw back in May and June. This is roughly the same as what we had last year at this time. Last year, this time, we're at 7.5 months, a small gain of 1.3% year over year. In regards to home prices, that is actually flat. So looking at the median sale price, it was at $426,100 1 year ago. Now it's at $426,300. So virtually flat year over year. Let's also discuss this as well. I really love how they share the number of houses that sold by stage of construction. So again, the total number of sales is that right there, 738,000. Again, seasonally adjusted and annualized. But most of the sales that occurred this September came from completed houses, 344,000 out of the total right there. This is quite the turnaround compared to 1 year ago, because 1 year ago, there was actually more home sales that were under construction, 326,000 compared to 265,000 for completed houses. That has been reversed now because now we have more home sales, far more home sales for completed houses compared to homes under construction. I actually love this because I've been telling you guys for years now, the best way to get a good deal on a brand new house is going to buy a completed house, because a home builder is much more incentivized to sell that house due to all the sunk costs of that compared to a dirt lot, for example. This also may be due to the fact that we have a big increase in the amount of houses that are completed, but they're still for sale. Have a look at this. 1 year ago, 73,000 completed houses were for sale. Now it's at 108,000. That's an increase of 48%. On top of that, actually did some research for you guys, at 108,000 completed houses for sale this September. That's the highest level going all the way back until September of 2009. That's this right here on our good Uncle Fred. 111,000 was the reading back in September 2009. Now it's at 108. This is far greater than the all-time record low that was set back in February of 2022, when we only had 31,000 completed houses for sale. Now there's a whopping 108,000 this month. Therefore, the number of houses that are for sale that are completed basically tripled over the past 2 years, and also increasing to more than a 10-year high as well. With that said, well, let's continue given the fact that mortgage rates have been increasing for the past month or so. So stay tuned for that. I'll definitely keep you posted with latest developments on that. And of course, if you guys are looking to buy a brand new house, I probably should mention this earlier on, make sure you link up with a real estate agent, because the builder contracts, in my personal opinion, based on my experience, favor the home builder and protect the home builder and not the home buyer. Much different than looking to buy a brand new house. In Sacramento, for example, the contracts written by the California Association of Realtors really protect the home buyer and not the home seller. Exactly the opposite when looking at buying a brand new house from a larger home builder. You have to actually use their builder contracts. And in my opinion, like I mentioned, they are hundreds of pages long and they favor the builder and not the home buyer. So you really have to get someone who's really, cognizant, will take the time to read over the contract, because they're really challenging to figure out what are your rights as a home buyer are once you sign that contract. So make sure you guys be careful. Link up with a great real estate agent prior to actually looking at a house. And of course, if you guys want an agent referral, then please email me at jason@meetjasonwalter.com. Hope you guys have an amazing day. I appreciate you so much, and we'll see you in the next video.